In this video, we're going to talk about the marker layout feature. This feature is used to lay out small blips of paint on the road that someone will come back later and use to place reflective markers on the road. In order to enable marker layout mode, you want to go to the mode widget and quick setup and go into marker mode. And you can verify that because it'll show marker mode right here, and all of this will be grayed out. Your pattern selector here will change from being the normal pattern selector that we see on this master to the dot pattern instead. We support up to 30 dot patterns that you can scroll through. So you can save that many. We'll explain how to do that in a second. And you'll be able to put guns into solid or skip. So basically you can save 2 patterns per pattern, a solid pattern and a skip pattern. And then that will show up in the pattern preview. By default, the patterns are all empty, so we're just seeing a single dot, but we'll look at how to set that up right now. Okay, so under setup marker layout is where you want to lay out all your dot patterns. So again, you can set up a solid and a skip pattern for each marker layout pattern, and it's just going to be based on whatever the rules layout is for wherever you are. So I'm just going to make something up. I'm going to say for dot pattern number 1, if you have a gap at the very beginning of your pattern, you can set that here. So let's say I've got a 2.5 feet index before my first dot, and then I've got dots every 2 feet. Okay, I have to have that many dots. And then once you get to a 0, it automatically knows to stop and then repeat the pattern over and over again. So that's one pattern. And then my solid pattern, I can do something completely different for that. If you know that things are kind of equally spaced apart, under the option menu, you can edit the stripe and cycle here. I'm not going to bother changing them. You can clear your dots out, or the equidistant feature says, okay, I'm editing the solid pattern right now, so I'm looking at the cycle, and it's 40 feet, and I want to have, say, 15 dots. Hit OK, and it automatically fills in the requisite number of dots, all spaced equally apart. So if you know your pattern is equal space like that, that's a really easy way to fill it in instead of having to scroll through each one over and over. But again, of course, you can always go through and edit individual ones. So now let's go back and look at the main screen, and you can see that this gun isn't solid. So it's using the solid pattern I've configured to lay out the dots here. And then gun 2 is in skip, and it's using the indent. So you can see there's a little gap right here before the first dot, and then the 4 dots that I've specified. And then it goes until the end of the cycle and starts again. So it's just like painting a skip. We've said our skip is 10 foot, so it's fitting these dots into that 10-foot space. We have a gap, and then we keep repeating like any other pattern. Okay. And you're not restricted in the number of guns you can have. If for some reason you need to paint 5 lines of dots, that's totally fine. Mix and match however you want between the solid and skip patterns. Again, this is based on whatever your job is that you need to paint. And if you need to switch to a different pattern, again, you can have 30 patterns stored up, so you can just flip between them as you need, just like anything else. And that's the basics of the dot pattern layout. There's a few more settings that you can look at under the mid spot. The dot length is the only one that we care about right now for the marker layout feature. So by default, we've configured that the dots are 4 inches, but if you need to make them bigger or smaller for some reason, you can change that here. Of course, that will not show up in the pattern preview, but the dots themselves that are painted will be whatever size you've specified. Okay. The other two settings are used for mid-spot mode, which is a related but not part of marker layout. So we want to be in normal mode for this. And we want to turn on mid-spot. So mid-spot can either be placed every odd cycle, like directly between the skips, every even cycle, or every cycle. So we'll go ahead and do every cycle, and you can see that there's little dots in between. And then under marker layout mid-spot, if you need multiple dots, you can configure that here. So let's say we want 5 dots instead of 1 dot, and they're spaced, 8 inches apart. Now we've got this big blob, but that's really 5 dots. So let's go ahead and make the spacing larger. Nope. There we go. Now we see we've got our skips are as normal, and then we have the 3 little dots spaced apart as we wanted and directly in the middle. And again, if we change this to odd or even, this is cycle number 1, so it won't do it here. Then cycle 2, it's even, so it will fill it in here. And that is the marker layout and mid-spot features. Thanks for listening, and let us know if you have any questions.